I still remember the exact moment I knew the game had flipped. I was sitting at the far end of the long oak conference table in the executive wing of Harlan Manufacturing, the same table where I'd signed my first big supplier deal 15 years earlier. Across from me sat Ethan Harlan Jr., 27, wearing a suit that probably cost what my wife and I paid for our daughter's first semester at State College. He'd just finished announcing my transition out to the team from Vanguard Industries, our soon-to-be parent company. His words hung in the air like cheap cigar smoke. Jack Donovan has served us well, but it's time for fresh vision in operations. Effective next month, he'll be pursuing new opportunities. The Vanguard execs, three sharp-eyed folks in their 50s and 60s, shifted in their seats. They'd heard this song before. Ethan smiled like he'd just closed a TED Talk. Then he turned to me, expecting maybe a handshake or a quiet exit. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket. No flourish. Just calm. I pulled out a single business card. Heavy stock, matte black, simple white lettering. I placed it face up on the table and slid it slowly toward the head of Vanguard's integration lead, Margaret Voss. Jack Donovan, Interim Director of Operations and Continuity. Vanguard Industries, Post-Acquisition Transition Team. Ethan's grin froze. His eyes flicked down. The color drained from his face faster than water down a drain. Margaret picked up the card, read it, and let the smallest smile crease her lips, the kind a grandmother gives when she sees her grandkid finally learn the hard lesson. But let me back up. Let me tell you how a 45-year-old logistics man from Toledo, Ohio, the guy who still drives the same Ford pickup he bought in 2012, ended up holding the keys to the kingdom in a $450 million deal. My name's Jack Donovan. Folks in the plant still call me Sarge, from my time in the Army Reserve running supply convoys in Iraq. I came home in '09, took a job as shift supervisor at Harlan Manufacturing, back when it was just a mid-sized metal parts fabricator with 3 plants and about 200 employees. Old man Harlan Sr., Ethan's dad, hired me himself. Said he liked a man who'd served and knew how to count beans without wasting them. I started small. Fixed the inventory system that was bleeding us $20,000 a month in overstock. Negotiated better steel contracts during the tariff wars. Built redundancy into our supply chain so when COVID hit, we never missed a shipment while half our competitors were scrambling. By 2023, we were a $450 million operation. I'd been promoted to VP of Operations. My wife Lisa and I paid off the house. Our daughter Emily was in her second year at Ohio State, studying engineering, following in her old man's footsteps, sort of. Then Harlan Sr. got sick. Pancreatic. Fast. He called me into his office one rainy Tuesday, looked me square in the eye, and said, "Jack, the kid's got the name, but he doesn't have the spine for this yet. Sell to Vanguard. They'll treat the people right. And watch my boy. He thinks he knows everything." Ethan Jr. took over as acting CEO the day after the funeral. First move? He hired his fraternity brother, Tyler Voss, no relation to Margaret, as Chief Innovation Officer. Tyler showed up with a man bun, noise-canceling headphones, and a vision board full of words like agile, disrupt, and pivot. He'd never run so much as a lemonade stand. Within weeks, the cracks showed. Ethan decided our ERP system, the one I'd spent 2 years customizing and stress testing, was legacy baggage. He pushed to switch to a shiny new cloud platform his buddy recommended. No pilot phase. No training. Just rip the Band-Aid. I warned him in 3 separate emails. Migration risks, compliance gaps with our defense contractors, potential downtime during peak season. He replied to one with a single emoji, a rocket ship. I didn't argue in public. I just kept doing my job. Quietly. I documented everything. Saved every email. Backed up the old system configs. Updated my personal disaster recovery binder, the one I'd kept since the Army days. And when Vanguard's due diligence team quietly reached out for operational insights, I didn't hesitate. I sent them the real picture, not the polished decks Ethan was presenting. The actual vendor scorecards, the audit trails, the contingency plans I'd built over 15 years. I didn't trash Ethan. I just gave facts. Margaret Voss called me personally one night at 9 p.m. "Jack," she said, "this is the kind of detail we need for a smooth integration. How would you feel about staying on in a continuity role?" I told her the truth. I'm not looking to play politics. But I won't watch 15 years of good work get flushed because someone thinks innovation means ignoring the basics. That conversation led to others. Off-calendar calls. Shared docs. A draft transition agreement that landed in my inbox one midnight. Password protected. Marked internal review only. Buried on page 18, section 4.2. All operational continuity decisions during the 120-day transition require approval from the designated continuity director. Name field blank. I didn't ask for my name there. But a week later, after I'd walked Vanguard through 3 potential showstoppers Ethan hadn't even noticed, the field got filled. Meanwhile, Ethan kept performing. He announced innovation sprints. Brought in consultants for culture workshops. Ignored the warning signs when our biggest automotive clients started complaining about delayed shipments. Tyler optimized the quality inspection process by cutting 2 steps that OSHA required. A supplier called me at home on a Saturday. "Jack, your payment's stuck. Again. If this doesn't clear by Monday, we're pulling the line." I fixed it quietly. Didn't CC Ethan. Just got the wire through and documented the approval chain that showed Tyler had bypassed protocol. The resentment built slow. I missed family dinners. Lisa would look at me across the table and say, "You're carrying the whole place again, aren't you?" I'd nod. She'd squeeze my hand. "Just don't let them break you." I wasn't broken. I was patient. Then came the day Ethan decided to streamline headcount for the acquisition. He scheduled an all-hands, stood up there in his custom blazer, and said my name like it was yesterday's news. "Jack's contributions have been invaluable, but we're moving forward with a new structure." That's when I knew it was time. I'd printed the card the night before. Lisa helped pick the font. Emily texted me a thumbs-up emoji when I showed her a photo. As the room sat in stunned silence after I slid that card across the table, Margaret finally spoke. Soft. Professional. "Actually, Ethan, Jack's role has been formalized in the transition agreement you countersigned last month." Ethan blinked. "What agreement?" Margaret opened her folder. Turned to page 18. Read aloud, slow and clear. Continuity Director. Jack Donovan. Final authority on all operational staffing and process decisions for the transition period. Ethan's mouth worked like a fish on dry land. Tyler looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, hands folded, feeling the weight of 15 years lift off my shoulders, just a little. But the real reckoning? That was still coming. After I slid that card across the table, the conference room felt smaller. The air got thick, like right before a Midwest thunderstorm rolls in. Ethan Jr. kept staring at the business card in Margaret Voss's hand as if it might disappear if he blinked hard enough. Tyler, his innovation sidekick, had gone completely still, the way a deer freezes when headlights hit it. Margaret broke the silence first. Her voice was calm, measured, the kind you hear from someone who's seen too many boardroom dramas to get rattled. "Ethan, as I mentioned, the transition agreement, the one you and your legal counsel reviewed and signed on December 12th, designates Jack Donovan as Continuity Director for Operational Matters. That gives him final sign-off on any changes to processes, staffing, or systems that could impact integration for the next 120 days. Ethan's laugh came out forced, too loud. "Come on, Margaret. That's just boilerplate. Standard legalese. My father's team put that in years ago for acquisitions we never even pursued. Jack's been great, sure, but he's operations. I'm the one steering the ship here. Graham Harlan, no relation, just Vanguard's senior VP who looked like he'd been negotiating deals since Eisenhower was president, leaned forward slightly. You signed it, son. Page 17. Your initials are right next to the clause. We don't put names in contracts for decoration. I stayed quiet. I didn't need to speak yet. The document was doing the talking. Ethan turned to me then. His eyes were wide, almost pleading. Jack, you knew about this? You went behind my back. I met his gaze steady. I didn't go behind anyone's back, Ethan. I answered questions when Vanguard asked. I provided the information they needed to make sure this deal, the one your father wanted, doesn't collapse under bad decisions. He opened his mouth, closed it. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the projector still running his Apex 2.0 slide deck in the background. Margaret closed her folder with a soft snap. We'll adjourn for now. Jack, we'll need you in our integration war room tomorrow at 8. Bring your continuity binder, the one you referenced in our last call. I nodded. I'll be there. As everyone filed out, Ethan stayed seated. Tyler slipped away like smoke. I was almost to the door when Ethan called my name, softer this time. Jack. Wait. I turned. He looked smaller somehow. The custom suit didn't fit the same. I thought we were on the same team. Dad always said you were the backbone of this place. Your dad was right, I said. And he asked me to protect it. Even from you. He swallowed. I wasn't trying to destroy anything. I was trying to modernize. Make it better. Faster. I thought about Lisa waiting at home, about the nights I'd come in after midnight because I was fixing something Ethan's modernization had broken. About Emily texting me during finals week, Dad, you okay? Mom says you're stressed again. Modernize all you want, I told him. But don't pretend shortcuts don't have consequences. You almost lost our biggest Tier 1 automotive contract last month because Tyler optimized the quality audits. I spent 3 weekends rebuilding trust with their purchasing director. You never even knew. He looked down at his hands. I didn't realize. That's the problem, I said quietly. You didn't realize. And people's jobs, real people with mortgages and kids in college, depend on someone who does. I left him there. That night, Lisa had meatloaf in the oven, the kind with the ketchup glaze she knows I love. She took one look at my face when I walked in and said, You did it, didn't you? I set my keys on the counter. I slid the card. She came over, wrapped her arms around me from behind. And they're keeping me on. Interim director. At least through the transition. She rested her cheek against my back. You deserve this, Jack. 15 years. You built that place. I turned, held her. I didn't do it for the title. I did it because your dad, Harlan Sr., trusted me. And because I didn't want Emily to see her old man give up. Lisa smiled, eyes shiny. She's proud of you. We both are. We ate dinner like normal folks. Talked about her garden, about Emily's upcoming internship interview. For the first time in months, I didn't check work email every 5 minutes. But the next morning at 7:45, I was in the Vanguard war room on the top floor. Margaret, 2 other execs, and a compliance specialist were already there. Spread across the table were printouts of my continuity binder, color-coded tabs, audit trails, vendor risk matrices, everything I'd quietly maintained since 2018. Margaret looked up. Jack, thank you for coming early. We've got a problem. She slid a report toward me. Red flags everywhere. The cloud migration Ethan had forced through last month had corrupted 3 critical databases: supplier certifications, defense contractor compliance docs, and our ISO 9001 audit history. If not fixed in the next 72 hours, our largest defense client could trigger penalties. 6 figures. Maybe the contract itself. I scanned the pages. This is fixable. But it'll take rolling back to the last stable backup, rerunning the validation scripts I wrote 2 years ago, and manual reconciliation for about 400 records. Tyler had deleted the rollback scripts because they were clutter. Margaret nodded. Ethan's team says it's impossible before the integration audit next week. I met her eyes. It's not impossible. It's just hard. She smiled. Small. Approving. Then do it. You have full authority. We'll clear the schedule. For the next 3 days, I barely left the building. I pulled in my old team, the guys and gals who'd been with me since the strip mall days. Night shifts. Pizza at 2 a.m. coffee that tasted like regret. We rebuilt the databases line by line. I walked them through every step, the way I used to train new lieutenants in the reserves. On the third night, around 11 p.m., Ethan showed up at the ops center door. He looked like he hadn't slept. Hair messy. Tie gone. Jack, can we talk? I stepped into the hallway. The hum of servers was the only sound. I heard what you're doing, he said. The rollback. I didn't know it was this bad. I waited. I thought the new system would handle it. Tyler said. Tyler's never run a real shop floor, I cut in gently. He doesn't know what happens when you cut corners on compliance. Ethan rubbed his face. Dad would be ashamed of me. I thought about Harlan Sr., the way he'd shake my hand after a tough quarter, say, "You kept us alive, Jack." The way he trusted me with the keys when he couldn't anymore. Your dad would want you to learn, I said. Not quit. He looked up. Eyes red. I don't know how. Then start by listening, I told him. And stop signing things you don't read. He nodded slowly. Didn't argue. Just stood there like a kid who finally understood the stove was hot. I went back to work. By Friday morning, the databases were restored. Clean. Audited. Vanguard's compliance team gave us a green light. Margaret sent me a one-line email. Well done. You just saved the deal. That afternoon, word came down from the top. Ethan was being reassigned for the transition period to one of our smaller plants in Dayton. Night supervisor on the loading docks. Same salary. New responsibilities. Hands-on. Real operations. He didn't fight it. When he packed up his office, he left a note on my old desk, now my interim office. Jack, I get it now. Thanks for not letting the place burn down. Ethan. I folded it, tucked it in my drawer. Not gloating, just relief. But the transition was far from over. There were still fires to put out, and one more big reckoning waiting in the wings. The weeks after Ethan's reassignment felt like the calm after a tornado has passed. Everything looks the same on the surface, but you can still smell the ozone and see the scattered pieces that need picking up. I moved into the interim office on the 3rd floor, not the big corner one Ethan had claimed, but the smaller one next to the conference room. Solid oak desk, same view of the loading docks I'd watched for 15 years. The only new thing was the Vanguard badge clipped to my shirt pocket. Every time I glanced down at it, I felt a small, private satisfaction. Not pride exactly. More like relief. Like finally breathing after holding your breath too long. The first thing I did was call my core team into the break room. The same folks who'd pulled all-nighters with me to save the databases. There were 8 of us. Maria from Quality Control, who'd been there since before Ethan was born. Big Mike from Maintenance, whose hands were permanently stained with hydraulic oil. Sarah the logistics coordinator, single mom with 2 kids in high school, and a handful of others who'd kept the place running while the innovation circus played out upstairs. I didn't give a speech. I just set out coffee and donuts, the good kind from the bakery on Main Street, and said, "We're back in charge of operations for the next 100 days. No more shortcuts. No more untested cloud switches. We do it right, the way we always have." And if anyone from Vanguard asks, you tell them the truth. No sugarcoating. Maria looked at me over her cup. You really have the final say now? I nodded. On anything that touches operations, compliance, or supply chain. They wrote it into the contract. Big Mike let out a low whistle. Kid signed his own pink slip. Not pink, I said. Just a lesson. They laughed. Quiet, tired laughs. The kind that come after years of holding things together. We got to work. Real work. I reinstated the old vendor verification process Tyler had gutted. We ran full audits on every defense contract line item. I brought back the weekly floor walkthroughs I used to do every Monday morning. Walking the plant, talking to operators, spotting issues before they became emergencies. People started smiling again when they saw me coming. Not because I was some hero. Because they knew someone was finally paying attention to the details that kept their jobs safe. At home, things started to feel normal again. Lisa noticed first. I was home for dinner most nights. I even started helping with the dishes without being asked. One evening she found me in the garage, organizing my old army duffel, the one I kept my continuity binder prototypes in. You're humming, she said, leaning in the doorway. Am I? Sweet Home Alabama. You only hum that when you're feeling good. I looked up. I think I'm finally done carrying the whole damn place by myself. She came over, sat on the workbench beside me. You never had to carry it alone. You just wouldn't let anyone else help. I took her hand. I was afraid if I let go, it would all fall apart. And now? Now I've got backup. Real backup. She kissed my forehead. Good. Because Emily's coming home this weekend. She wants to celebrate with her dad, the guy who just got promoted without asking for it. Emily arrived Friday night with a bottle of sparkling cider and a hug that nearly knocked me over. She'd cut her hair shorter, looked more grown up. We sat on the back porch while Lisa grilled burgers. So, Emily said, tell me the real story, not the LinkedIn version. I told her everything, the card, the contract clause, Ethan's face when he realized what he'd signed. I didn't embellish. Didn't need to. When I finished, she was quiet for a minute. Then, Dad, you didn't do it for revenge, did you? I thought about that. No, honey. I did it because someone had to protect what your grandfather built. And because I couldn't stand watching good people lose everything over someone else's ego. She nodded slowly. You taught me that. Hard work matters. Details matter. And sometimes you have to stand up, even when it's quiet. I reached over, squeezed her shoulder. You're gonna be a better engineer than I ever was. She grinned. I'm gonna make sure the machines don't break because some hotshots skipped the manual. That weekend was good. Simple. Family. The kind of weekend I'd missed too many of over the years. Monday morning brought the next wave. Vanguard's full integration audit team arrived. 12 people, clipboards, laptops, serious faces. Margaret Voss led them. She pulled me aside before the kickoff meeting. Jack, we've been reviewing the progress. The defense client is thrilled. They sent a note saying they're extending the contract another 2 years because of the restored compliance confidence. I exhaled. That's good news. It is. But there's one loose end. She handed me a thin folder. Ethan's last innovation project, the AI scheduling tool Tyler pushed through. It still live in a sandbox environment. If we migrate it during integration, it'll override half your production schedules. We can kill it now, or let it run and document the failure for the record. I opened the folder. Lines of code. Pretty dashboards. Zero mention of fallback protocols or manual overrides. Kill it, I said. Quietly. No announcement. Just archive it and restore the old scheduling matrix. She nodded. Done. That afternoon, I got a call from Dayton, the plant where Ethan had been reassigned. It was the plant manager, old-timer named Ray. Jack, your boy's here. Showing up on time. Working nights. Not complaining. He's actually learning. Asked me yesterday how we calibrate the presses. I showed him. Kid's got blisters now. I smiled despite myself. Good. Let him earn it. Ray chuckled. You're a better man than most, Sarge. Not better, I said. Just older. The audit wrapped on Thursday. Green across the board. Margaret called me into her temporary office that evening. Jack, Vanguard's board met this morning. They want to discuss making your role permanent after the transition. Full Director of Operations. Reporting directly to the new Regional VP. Salary adjustment. Benefits package. Equity grant. I sat down. I didn't ask for permanent. We know, she said. That's why we're offering it. You didn't scheme. You didn't sabotage. You protected the asset. That's rare. I thought about Lisa, Emily, the house we'd paid off, the future we could actually plan for now. I'll need to talk to my wife, I said. Margaret smiled. Take your time. But we'd like an answer by end of next week. I drove home that night with the windows down, even though it was January and cold. The radio played low, some old country song about second chances. When I walked in, Lisa was at the kitchen table with paperwork spread out. Emily's internship acceptance letter. Our mortgage statement. Zero balance circled in red. I told her about the offer. She looked up. Eyes bright. What do you want to do? I sat across from her. I want to keep doing what I've always done. But on my terms. No more 20-hour days. No more weekends. And I want to mentor the next generation. Make sure they don't repeat Ethan's mistakes. She reached across the table. Then say yes. You've earned it. I nodded. I think I have. But there was one more thing I needed to do before I signed anything. The next morning, I drove to Dayton. I left before dawn the next morning. The drive to Dayton took just under an hour. Long enough for the sky to turn from black to steel gray, long enough for me to think about what I was going to say. The plant was already humming when I pulled into the gravel lot. Forklifts moving in slow, practiced arcs. The smell of hot metal and hydraulic fluid hit me as soon as I stepped out of the truck. Familiar. Comforting. Ray met me at the guard shack. He jerked his thumb toward the loading docks. He's on break. Back there by the coffee cart. Been a good soldier, Jack. Shows up early. Stays late. Doesn't mouth off. I nodded. Thanks, Ray. Ethan was sitting alone on an overturned pallet, paper cup in his hands, staring at the floor. He looked different. No suit. Just a company-issued navy jacket, jeans, steel-toe boots. A few grease stains on the sleeves. Hands rougher than they'd been a month ago. He saw me coming and stood up straight. Not out of fear. More like respect. Sarge, he said quietly. No sarcasm. Just the nickname the floor guys had given me years ago. Ethan. We stood there for a second, the rumble of the plant filling the silence. You didn't have to come all the way out here, he said. I wanted to. He looked down at his boots. I figured you'd want to see me humbled. Mission accomplished. I shook my head. That's not why I'm here. He met my eyes then. Then why? Because your dad asked me to watch out for you. And because I believe people can learn, even the hard way. He let out a short, bitter laugh. I thought I was the future. Turns out I was just noise. You were young, I said. And you had a title before you earned it. That's a dangerous combination. He nodded slowly. I keep replaying it. The card. The contract. The way everyone looked at me when Margaret read that paragraph out loud. I signed my own demotion and didn't even notice. I didn't say anything. He needed to get it out. I called my dad's lawyer yesterday, he continued. Asked him why he let me sign without reading every page. He said, because sometimes a man has to learn the hard way. And your father thought Jack would be there to catch the pieces. I felt something shift in my chest. Not pity. Just recognition. Your dad trusted me, I said. Not because I was perfect. Because I showed up. Every day. For 15 years. Through recessions. Tariffs. Pandemics. I didn't always get it right, but I never stopped trying. Ethan looked at me, really looked. I never thanked you for that. For keeping the lights on while I was busy rebranding everything. You're thanking me now, I said. That's enough. He swallowed. What happens next? For me. That's up to you, I told him. Vanguard's not kicking you out. They want you to earn your way back. Start on the floor. Learn the machines. Understand why the old processes exist. Then, when you're ready, they'll give you something bigger. But it'll be earned. He stared at the coffee in his cup like it held answers. I don't know if I can do that. Start over. You already are, I said. You're here. You're working nights. You've got blisters. That's starting over. A small smile tugged at his mouth. The first real one I'd seen from him in months. You're not going to make this easy, are you? No, I said. But I'll make it fair. He extended his hand. Not a corporate handshake. A real one. Calloused. Steady. I took it.